Greetings, flashbacks! It is I, Jarvis Hammer, or I'm about to be. Currently, I am merely his mortal vessel, and that's what we're here to fix today. Welcome to Baby's first makeup tutorial. I'm filming on my iPad with lighting that is going to change rapidly, because right now we still have some daylight coming in, because it couldn't be arsed to black out my windows for this. I've got a ring light going and a little side light here, but that's gonna change as sun sets. Today we'll do what I think of as a pretty classic Jarvis face. I'll put it here. It's the picture that I keep looking back at thinking, how did I do that? So it's often the one I'm trying to replicate. So that's what we'll try to do today. Okay, so foundation, I mix my own. And it is usually a mix of, I have various colors lying around my makeup bag, and what I do is I will mix together these Nye cream colors. Like this one I've actually not used. Let me see, can I do the influencer thingy of the hand? I don't know. Woo! I don't know what I'm doing. But yes, these in various colors like peacock blue, turquoise, I think Tahitian blue is another one I've used before. And I will get these little jars. Sometimes they're jars that I get from my local Costco, which is a theatrical and film makeup supply. Or I will repurpose glass jars from skincare or like food even. Run it through the washing machine first. Scoop these out with a palette knife and do a little Cold Stone Creamery action usually with some Mehron Clown White. The hardcore Clown White, this is my white of choice. Until I get various shades of spectral seafoam or cyan or slate gray or whatever it is that Jarvis needs to be that day, depending on what he ate or how he's feeling. But really kind of depending on the tones in the outfits that I wear, which are usually shades of the same. In the great tradition of Jinx Monsoon, scoop this out and I slather it on my face. And I am realizing now that I did this before the step that I normally do first. Oh, we're off to a great start. Okay, so I'll just get this base down, and then we'll get to the thing that I normally. Oh, I gotta get that off my ears because the ears are gonna get painted by something else. Yeah, so I use a different paint on my neck and ears, or at least I do that first, or I try to. And here we are. Okay. Just try to. So before I started using a different paint on my neck and ears, I really would do the thing that Jinx Monsoon does in that. This is me trying to throw up the video here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. Or I'll put the link down in the description below of Jinx Monsoon, like absolutely slathering her face and neck in foundation. And as somebody who is like completely changing their skin color to a fantastical color and don't want to show any human skin through, I've found that immensely beneficial. So thank you, Jinx Monsoon, for sharing that with the world. So yeah, okay, so we're pretty covered. So then I take my favorite blending sponge of all time, the Sonia Kashuk body blender, which you can get at Target, and I always have extras on hand. It's gigantic, I love it. Rub all the excess all over it, and then just balance it out and make sure everything's even and kind of gotten into all the crevices of my Bond villain level of pockmarked face. And you can see that the Beauty Blender does lift some product. You can kind of see around my nose is where it tends to go first. Try to stretch out my face as I do this, so it really gets in there. My wrinkles, although my wrinkles will come in handy later. get the outlines of the lips, because I also tend to underdraw, or I draw a very different kind of lip, you'll see. We're gonna move on to what I should have done first, which was my alcohol paint base. Like my cream base is kind of my own proprietary blend of Endura alcohol-based paints. Although it is, so this is one of them. This is just the white, not the best example because you can't really see the label there. So it's alcohol-based, but they told me at Costco when I got it that it's mixed with some kind of oil, which sounds counterintuitive for an alcohol-based paint, but it kind of gives it more opacity and grip, I find. So I've really been liking it for my neck and ears, areas that kind of like get really sweaty and like collars and stuff start to rip off the makeup. That is pretty inevitable in my line of work after a certain amount of hours, or just friction, or just like collar tightness. So as you can see, I've mixed up a color that is almost exactly the same as my cream base, and I'm going to paint my neck with it. Normally what I do is I put these alcohol paints down first, let them dry, go in with the creams, and then sometimes I will even bounce the cream over the alcohol painted areas once it's totally dry, just to like make sure they're totally blended. But I've done a pretty damn good job of matching these colors, if I do say so myself, so I think I'm gonna be okay. Ugh. Trying to show you the process, but also trying to get it done. How far down the ear canal are we gonna go today? And then back of my neck, kind of just wing it. I wing it. And then, ooh, I shave the back of my neck too. And then I will kind of check myself out in a mirror with this to kind of see how, well, you might be able to see, but I can't. So I gotta go check. What we're gonna have to do is just let that dry, because there's some areas like kind of the edges of where the alcohol paint stops and the cream paint starts that I'm gonna need to bounce around and kind of do that blend that I was talking about earlier. So I'll just be sitting here as a robin's egg for a little bit and kind of like sticking this directly in there and then re-emulsifying it on the back of my hand. We're gonna get that on, I can get this covered. Okay, contour. Sugarpill's Euphoria. Sugarpill's liquid lipstick in this fabulous teal. This is kind of the secret to my contour. I really like the triangular doe foot applicator. It helps with a lot of the sharp lines that I do on my face. And I kind of like to start it where this nubby thingy on my ear is. And I look in my trifold mirror, and let's see if I can do this on camera. Some of it is kind of by memory now, and then I do a little ho. And I make sure that it's kind of level with my nose, the kind of the peak of the cheekbone. And then I do this to kind of decide where it has to stop. Like, I don't want it to go inside these jowls, because the jowls are just going to move and like kind of disrupt that line. So I just bring that line down a little bit. Oh, okay, we're pretty happy with it. And I want it to be ideally kind of all soft diagonals, no like straight down lines are kind of, that's kind of what I'm going for. And we're gonna blend it out a little bit using just the actual applicator of the lipstick. Yeah, I've got some product lifting here. I'm okay with that because I'm gonna add white and just generally more colors. How far out did I come? Oh, nice. Barely even looking in the mirror to do that one. What a bro. Still getting used to that notion. More or less even. The cheeks, the cheeks are more or less even. One way that I will address that in post will be with my highlight cream. Okay, and then we're gonna do oh no. Oh well, this is mostly gonna get lost in my collars anyway, so I don't get too upset about that. Oh, I'm almost out of this color. Oh my. Gonna have to mix some more very soon. Okay. Okay. And blend. Blend, 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 blend. Blend, 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 blend. It's a bit of too much product on like the line, like the outline of that. That's kind of happening. So I'm kind of using the blender to lightly buff that out. It's tricky when that happens. Okay, pretty. That's pretty. It's pretty even. Pretty even. Okay. And then kind of blending out the neck, or the under jaw, I should say. See, now I'm doing this for a video and I'm questioning everything that I held true about myself. Okay, this is interesting. Okay. Well, that got messed up. I'm just gonna erase. This edge kind of gets covered up by my wigs anyway, so we're gonna deal with that in post. And by that I mean highlight, which I'm not ready for yet. First, the nose. Probably what I think of as like one of my more defining characteristics is this sort of diamond nose I do, which is modeled after men like Tom Hiddleston. And I just straight up use Sugarpill's awesome pointy doe foot applicator to do this. I kind of try to start it where my tear duct is. It's kind of where the diamond starts. And almost even. Yeah, pretty darn even. And then I go, oh, let's see. Maybe bring because I kind of use a lot of my own wrinkles to determine where stuff would be. So like there's one here. So I feel like my brow bone would kind of start to get shadowy here if I had an actual more traditionally masculine bone structure. And then there's kind of like a winging out thing you see here around the occipital bone, I think it is. I don't know. And again, scraping off some of the excess product and straight up using the applicator to add more product where needed and kind of start to blend it out. As product starts to leave the brush, or the applicator, I should say, it starts to become better for that purpose of blending out. And then I kind of, ooh, very lightly, very delicately try to blend it all together. This is probably gonna disappear. I don't know why I do this part. Something about keeping myself even. I don't know, but this thing that I'm doing right here, this kind of disappears once I put my white eyebrows on. This is silly little things we do. So growing up, I was often made fun of for my nose, and just generally by societal standards, I thought it was a bad nose. And I also have hereditary eye bags, which you'll see accentuated later. Then I kind of realized like all of these things were features that I admired in other people. So I was like, well, then why don't I admire them in myself? And so I kind of chose to play them up and accentuate them and make them more grotesque as Jarvis, and seems to do well for me. You know, I have this bit of a bumpy witch nose, and so I kind of try to accentuate it with the diamond. It gets worse before it gets better. But we're getting there. Okay, and now, where is, okay, here we go. This is just straight up a craft brush, and I'm going to use it as hinted earlier. I'm just finding some more skin spaces to emulsify product on. I'm gonna use this big old jug of Clown White to do my jaw contour. Kind of cleans up any sins I made around the jaw area. Clean off, get some more white, re-emulsify, and do it. Oh, this side got real messed up. Let's see, I gotta get in here, sorry. Sorry if I'm blocking you off. Oh. Well. My jaw is not super even today, and that's okay. And then another Sonia Kashuk blender. This one I like for its dual-endedness. This really pointy part I really like for in my tear ducts, and then this more rounded, pointy one I like for blending out this stuff. Oh, shit. Okay, I should start. Pro tip, start the product, start like the freshly added product where you want the bulk of the product to be, not at the point where you kind of want it to diffuse out. That was a dingus move on my part. Okay. And then kind of have to re-blend in with the shadow, contour, kind of just make it all merry. This one? This one I'm kind of eyeballing. Okay. And then I kind of lifted. Sometimes this brush can get so knife-like, it'll like lift the product that was there before. And do a little bit of blending with the actual brush. A little bit. Just a little bit. And then I will take this guy again and kind of get some product on there, and then use it to diffuse. Diffuse. It's kind of adding a little more than I would like. And then I pull it down. I don't know if this is something about the chin and just how much it moves during lip syncs and talking and eating and whatnot. But this area I highlight and it always lifts, and I'm usually having to reapply cream over all my creams and powders at the gig, depending how long. And this is a great way to kind of fix this butt crack thing. Okay. Nice little sunset. Sunset in blue. And my little cheeky peaks. Little cheeky peaks. Nose highlights. Again, using a craft brush, my weapon of choice, this one. It's almost exactly the width of my nose highlight that I want. Running out of places on my skin. Okay, and then I go down. Try to make that nice and even. Kind of lost product as I went down. That's okay, because I feel like the bulk of the highlight should probably be at the tip anyway. Okay, wipe that off, and now we're gonna get, ooh, turning colors. Okay, scary part. Maintaining the diamond, but now with the white cream. Keep it together. Keep it pointy. Okay. Almost done. Around my nostrils. Kind of do it in one curving motion, or I try to. And then I bring this line over. More or less. Okay. Diffusing. Maybe you can see this side. Okay. Curve. Got my little nostril highlight, and then pull the highlight over. Okay. Yeah. Clean it up a little bit to kind of make the underneath of my nose a little bit more diffused. I also tend to highlight my jowls these days. This is me kind of blocking, like very, very lightly blocking out an area that's going to be bounded by. I take a pencil brush and draw that frown line, very exaggerated. But I'm kind of laying down some highlight to both guide me when I get to that stage and to just make it even more differentiated from the rest. And it's a little uneven, but you know what? Sorry, most face. This is the part where I just say, I'll fix it in post, by which I mean now when I get to the powder stage. So we are basically done with the creams. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to do off camera because I do it in the privacy and safety of my bathroom because I get powder absolutely everywhere. Oh, cool. That was cool of me doing that. This is just RCMA's no color powder in an empty big old thing of Ben Nye Super White because I'm gross and I just like to leave my powder puffs inside. And I have two. I have like a triangular one that I do for the inner corners of the eyes and specific areas. And then I have a big one the size of this jar that I pack all over myself. This part I'll do on camera. I'll do this part on camera. Drying my hands on my old jeans. Trying to fix this inevitable creasing. And set. And then fix the creasing. Dab, dab, dab. Set. I find the eye area just has to be set before anything else. So yeah, I'm gonna do the rest off camera. And I'm back, and I've turned on another light in here because it was just getting a little depressing for me. But anyway, this is what it looks like when I'm pretty fully powdered. What I'll do is I'll absolutely smack the out of my face. Now to wipe it all off, I'm going to use my absolute favorite powder dusting off brush I've ever had in my life. This was a gift from Creature Cosmetics, based here in Atlanta, a small indie brand. And they have this amazing line of synthetic brushes called You Need a Medical Supply. It's one of many gifts they gave me. I was not paid to say this or anything. I just genuinely love this product. But this is so soft and so big and does a great job at dusting everything off. But I'm gonna go do this in my bathtub because it makes an absolute mess. Bye again. And I'm back again. This is after the full dusting off experience. And in so doing, I realized yet again, even more steps I did out of order or forget to do that I normally do. I forgot to put on my cream white eyebrows, and I forgot to put on my Adam's apple or do anything around my neck. Now on to powders. Before I do anything else, I like to put on white highlights to really let that set and bake for as long as possible. Was and still am a devotee of Sugarpill's Taco, but I am out. Another product I got put onto by my dear sister, Briar Blush. Manic Panic's Vampyre Veil Pressed Powder is marketed as a foundation, but is actually like a setting powder, but is really pigmented. Rivals Taco, I think. Trying to do this more towards camera, more towards you. Trying to trust myself and not be so beholden to the mirror. I can do this. I'm a real YouTube now. We're gonna do a quick and dirty neck highlight. Normally I would start this off with there would already, I'll fix that in post. We would normally already have some creams down there to just do this on top of, but I forgot to do that, as we have established. And then kind of doing that. So now what I should have done before all these powders, going back in with this brush that I used on my nose and emulsifying it on the back of my hand and frowning to determine where my brow's gonna go. Okay. Okay. I feel like my brows are a little bit different every day. Groovy. Okay. I like the shape. Let's see if I can replicate it on the other side. Already, it's doing something different. It's doing something different. Oh. Okay, let's see. Try to do that thing. even though I'm drawing a completely different face on top of my real face. It does help, I think, to adhere to some of those rules of thirds and angles and whatnot. Okay, it helps to kind of raise the brow to get that, get that skin taut while I'm trying to lay down the base white color of the brow. Just get that. It's okay if it's not like perfectly white, because, oh wow, okay. Wow, these two brows are different. They are different. Okay, gonna use some of this to erase this. Well, this is what I get. This is what I get for forgetting to do this at the cream stage. Okay, I think I know how to fix this. This is just gonna be very high and thick. I'll be able to get this together. Because what I do is I use alcohol-based white paint to do individual hairlines to make my eyebrows look really unruly, and that can change the height and shape of them. So just in the meantime, I'm just gonna use this Black Moon Cosmetics gifted brush that we got on episode 1 of the Blade Brothers Dragula season 5 and set my brows. I did not want my football goal to start that far in. I want it to be more like here. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is some in-between contour. This is a Sonia Kashuk pretty loose brush, and my trusty, very dusty Norvina Volume 6 palette, and I dip into this color B4 and this one B1, kind of back and forth, and kind of tap off excess, and that kind of gets me the in-between turquoisey color that I want. Sometimes I'll do it today. I do. This is kind of a contour shape you see on dead guys in movies with makeups by people like Robert L. Kurtzman, who is a huge influence of mine. There's kind of this trapezoid. And then the football goal to kind of diffuse that. Make that, maybe I'm gonna add a little bit of color that's you're about to see a lot more of as I continue. So sort of cheating that brow bone shadow, and it's okay that I'm kind of getting some color on my white brows. You'll see in a minute why. Make some connections. Make some connections. I do this a lot. I think this kind of masculinizes the face. I don't know what it's called. I'm going to go into my favorite super dark teal darkening contour shade. It's this E3 from the Norvina palette. And get a bunch on there, tap it off, and enhance the jaw. Get it nice and diffused underneath there. And because I'm lazy, I'm taking more product on it and I'm pinching it. Just filling in some splotchiness where I didn't do a very good job of filling in the cream. Okay, and then again, turning that down. These muscle lines that I didn't do a very good job of today, but that's okay because they are probably going to get erased by my collar. And then the hint of an Adam's apple, I take this super pointy pencil by Morphe, and I go into my super dark teal and I roll it around, tap off the excess, and this is how I accentuate my diamond. And so this is why I was saying I didn't mind if some white was gonna get muddied up by my mid-contour shade, because I also use this teal and this brush to bring in like some like darker hairs as if I still had those. But even these are kind of gonna get covered up, but it just adds some dimension, I think, so it's not completely just a block of white cartoony brow. It just adds a little dimension. But here I am using my actual frown lines to inform how I make myself look like an angry old dead man. Some more anger lines. Just like I don't connect them in the middle. I kind of just, sometimes I'll just do a couple there. And then my actual, I use my actual forehead wrinkles and I put product right in it. And then I use the intense dark teal to enhance the sort of like hollowest hole of the cheek, the gauntness of it all. I bring it up a little bit there too, just kind of letting the product sort of expire as it goes up. And I just do this hollow and bring it down a little bit. Use this brush that still has that sort of mid-contour shade just to blend that all in. Another little signature is I'm following some, I don't know if you can see. Hey, you want to look up my nose? I have some interesting divots and dimples and things underneath my nose, and I follow them. I make them honestly a bit more symmetrical than they actually are with this speaking I said I was going to make it more symmetrical, and then I very much did not. Oh, I'm getting, there's some mucus in that powder now. Do this little M shape. And then I have like a little divot separating my nose. I do that. And lately I just been connecting it. So now for eyes. Okay, at this point, I was hustling to get to the gig, so we're going to switch to voiceover, where there will be hopefully less ums and ahs because I'm not multitasking like I was while I was doing makeup. So here you see me using that Norvina Pro Palette again in E3, this lovely burgundy color, and I'm using that to outline my eye bags, kind of the lines that follow my actual eye bags and giving my eye a little bit more space to it right underneath the waterline. The brush I'm using is a nail art brush that I got in a pack off of Amazon from a brand called Winstonia. Going back into the Norvina Pro Pigment Palette Volume 6 in their lovely lavender color, C4. And now I am carving out the above eye area, not doing your traditional cut crease, kind of doing a Disney villain-esque shape. I like to make this peak above my eye with shadow, which I will then accentuate with a darker color you will see shortly. Here I am going in with Oh the Horror eyeshadow palette by Creature Cosmetics using my favorite matte purple ever, Bride. It is the truest, purplest, mattest purple I have ever found, and I'm so happy with it. Thank you, Creature Cosmetics. Just outlining. Here I'm digging into their lovely white, invisible, also super pigmented. You can see I have used the hell out of it. I have hit pan way hard. Getting into another Jarvis signature, my crow's feet, I should say. I squint so that I can get into my actual crevices of my actual crow's feet to inform how I do this. I envision Jarvis as being 43 when he died, and I have fun making myself look like a dead middle-aged man. Here you see me employing the squint and flick technique. I use Norvina's E3 to do this. And now going into C1, this lovely, almost mauvey pink by Norvina to add a little bit more dimension and actually kind of make the tired, super depressed area of the crevices of my eye bags pop a bit more, and to create almost this highlight in the middle where you see that I've left my foundation skin color to show through between the pink red area on the inner corner and the lavender area of the zygomatic bone, perhaps? I don't know. I'm generally following the orbital area of the eye bones as I use these colors underneath my eyes. Oh, going in with Re-Animator, a super fun palette by Creature Cosmetics. As you can see, I'm having too much fun dancing around with it. I'm going in with this lovely yellow chartreuse color, Re-Animator, hollowing out again something about the orbital bones of the eyes. I didn't do it very well. I need that lower line to drop further below and create more space between the lavender and the green, but there we are. And creating a bit of a darker line to define it using Talking Head. And going back in with Invisible to highlight this area underneath the eye bag, I suppose, creating some definition. You don't see it on camera, but I'm going to do more of this later. Going back in with Norvina's super dark teal to hollow out the area between my nose and eyes. I find that has a masculinizing and deathifying effect. Ooh, Ashes by Black Moon Cosmetics did a real bad job of showing off that product. This is a lovely purpley grayish gifted to us on the set of the Boulet Brothers Dragula. And as you can see, I am doing my weird thing of spreading out the peaks of my lips. I underdraw my actual lips a bit. I got the idea for this when I saw the animated series Arcane. Silco has a really cool lip shape and his Cupid's bow is much more spread, and I really dug that, so I kind of incorporated that into my own mouth shape. I generally like to make my mouth look wider as a dude. It's a little jokery too. I can't lie. I'm just the love child of Vincent Price and the Joker. Another way I masculinize my mouth shape is if you look at a lot of old comics, they'll often draw the upper lip of the mask character with a darker color, and then the lower either has nothing at all or just the bottom outline of the lip. And that's kind of what you see me doing here. I'm going back in with Mehron's Clown White with a craft brush to create that highlight on the bottom edge of the lower lip, and a nail art brush to create these sort of cracked, dehydrated, dead elements of the mouth lip. Mouth lip. Those are what those are. Anyway, yeah, you get it. You get it. Time to seal like the absolute maniac that I am. I spray it directly in my mouth because I want that liquid lip to set. PPI Premier Products' Green Marble Sealer is my sealer of choice, especially if you live in a hot and humid climate like I do. And now we see me doing my Feltrum, which is another signature element of the Jarvis face. I am doing one that defies the laws of physics because, as we discussed earlier, I have spread out my Cupid's bow and lowered the top edge of my actual lip. And I'm going in with that same Morphe brush using the Norvina Dark Teal and using kind of the fat end of the Morphe brush to diffuse the product out as I go after I make the sharp lines. Here's another little detail that often gets lost in the mix when I'm rushing to the gig, but I'm doing it here. I'm going in with Norvina's Navy in E4 to create these blood vessels to send home that deathly dead guy effect. I do this because Robert Kurtzman did it on his Ghosts in the Haunting of Hill House. They were super veiny, and I loved it. But when I'm rushing to the gig, honestly, this is one of those details that goes first. To be frank, this mug took me roughly 2.5 hours. That is also considering that I was stopping to talk to the camera and was generally a little nervous and fumbly about my first YouTube tutorial. But normally I like to try to keep it to 2 hours. Oh, here you see me highlighting a pimple that I had and trying to make it look like a design feature. Last steps here, I am going in with Endura's Prime White alcohol and castor oil based paint to create the flicked up, unruly eyebrow hairs. And here you can see where the lines of teal that I laid down to give it a bit of definition help out. Although it is so white and I am so close to the ring light that, as you can, yeah, you saw the light flare there. It's kind of blowing out on screen. And then I also take that nail art brush and highlight my crow's feet and various wrinkles using the alcohol paint. Ooh, kids, don't do what I do. Do as I say, not as I do. You don't really want to put alcohol paint that close to your eye, like literally right underneath your waterline. That was not smart. And I'm using it to create highlights on the underbags and making random dots where you might see random little highlights on a sort of sickly, sallow person's skin. Oh, what am I doing now? This is free jazz. Okay, she's gone off board. I don't normally... That doesn't make any sense. Those wrinkles don't make sense. I don't know what I'm doing. Highlighting the hollow of my cheekbones and my pimple design feature. Going in with mascara by Ben Nye in white. I also neglected to show you me doing eyeliner with NYX Epic ink. Y'all have seen eyeliner before, and mascara, so we're not going to spend too much time here. Oh, I'm going in with one of my favorite discontinued pressed pigments by Menagerie Cosmetics in Inkjet. I wish they would bring it back. Just outlining that Disney villain-esque peak and my crease line. And there he is! Don't come for my lace, it's not glued down because I'm doing a hair change after this. And that's how you make a Jarvis out of a Jules! I hope you had fun with this, kids. I'll make my best efforts to make my next YouTube makeup tutorial more technologically advanced with better lighting and all that jazz. Love you!